Hi everyone, I'm Amy O'Malley from Pro Design, and I'm here today to demonstrate our motorization options, go over some basic troubleshooting and how to program your motorized shades that you receive from us at Pro Design. Please remember before we get started too far that all of your shades do come programmed from the factory to your specifications. Stop limits are set for you and your channels on your remote are already programmed. So these steps are just to adjust limits and, as I said, to do some basic troubleshooting. Your shade is powered by a motor containing a lithium rechargeable battery that is sealed in the motor. The motor is in the tube of the shade and it will normally get about 300 up-down cycles before it will need to be charged. That of course will depend on the size of the shade. Larger shades may get fewer, smaller shades may get more, but that's about an average that you can expect. When the shade does need to be charged, it will beep 10 times every time the shade is operated. It's a faint beep. If the shade is really high up, you may not hear it well, but please let your customer know that that's the indication that it's time to start thinking about charging the shade. To do so, you would plug in the charger, allow it at least 5 to 6 hours to go from completely dead to completely charged, and that's indicated for you by a LED light on the charger itself. It will be red when you plug it in, and when the shade is fully charged, it will be green, a solid green. As I mentioned, your shade will come to you fully programmed from the factory, so the stop limits are already set. In the event that you need to adjust the stop limits on site, we'll go through the steps next on how to do that. For demonstration purposes, I will be adjusting the lower limit, and just so we are on the same page for the definition of a jog is a full up-down motion. To adjust the limit, the first thing you need to do is make sure that the shade is in the already programmed position before entering into programming. As I mentioned, we'll be doing the lower limit, so I will lower the shade to the already programmed limit that came from the factory. To enter into programming, you'll simultaneously press the middle and the down button until you get one full jog. So now we're in programming mode and your shade will only move in 1/8 inch increments. For this case, I will just move it up a little. If I needed to move it up a lot, you could press and hold the button and it will go faster. And then to set that limit, you'll press and hold the stop button again until you get 2 full jogs and a beep. That indicates to you that the motor has saved the new programming and you are no longer in programming mode. Resetting the upper limit on your shade is the same steps as resetting the limit on your lower shade, except you will press the up and stop button rather than the down and stop as you would for the lower limit. So in this case, I'll press the up button, put the shade at its current existing limit, enter into programming by pressing and holding the stop and up together for 1 jog. Move the shade to the desired upper limit, and then press and hold stop and up again to save the limit and exit out of programming. Your motor also has the ability to save a favorites limit or a middle stop limit, which is not programmed for you at the factory. This is a preferential thing and something that you can do on site when you're installing your shades. To set a favorites limit, you will go to where you would like your favorites position to be. In this case, we'll do it 2/3 lowered, and press and hold the stop button only for 8 to 10 seconds. You'll get 1 jog on the motor, that's just indicated there, 2 jogs, sorry, and that will let you know that that middle limit has been saved. To get to your favorites limit, let's just go from the lower limit since that's closest. To get to your favorites limit, you'll just tap the stop button and the shade will automatically raise to that middle limit that we set. If you ever want to adjust that, you just go to your new position and follow the same steps. Press and hold the stop button for 8 to 10 seconds until the motor does the 2 jogs, letting you know that it's been saved. A full reset on the motor should not ever really be necessary, but in the event that you are replacing a motor or have received a motor that is not programmed from the factory, we'll just go through the basic steps of resetting the motor and adjusting the limits from there. There's a reset button located on the motor head right here. And to fully reset the motor, you'll depress the little button until the shade does 4 full jogs, 4 full up-down cycles. At this point, the shade has been fully reset and there are no longer any stop limits or any other programming in the motor itself. The first step that you'll need to do is to pair your remote back to the shade. To do so, you'll again press this button for 1 jog. And then press the up button on the remote until you hear those 3 beeps and 1 jog, and that indicates to you that the shade has now been paired back to the remote on the channel that you have indicated on the remote. So the shade will operate, but only in programming mode. You'll be going in 1/8 inch increments until you get to your desired limits. If during the reset process you have caused the shade motor to be operating in the opposite direction of what you want, so up meaning, when you press the up button on the remote, it goes down and vice versa. You need to press this reset button again until you get 3 full jogs. So to set your limits, the first thing you'll do is go to the desired upper limit. Again, you're operating in 1/8 inch increments. If it's taking too long, just press and hold the up button on the remote until you get to the desired limit. You will need to stop it manually. And then to save the limit, you'll press and hold the stop and up together for 2 quick jogs and a beep, indicating to you that the limit has been saved, but you're still in programming mode until you save your lower limit. So press the down button, and then press and hold the stop and down together to save the lower limit. That indicates to you that the motor has saved your lower limit. You are no longer in programming mode and the shade will operate back at its normal speed as it should. Remember, when you do the hard reset, you have completely erased everything, so any favorite limit that you had set has now been erased and you'll need to reset that as well. Before we end this video, there are 3 quick troubleshooting things I'd like to go over with you. The first being, when you install your shade, if you find for some reason that your remote is not working with the shade as expected, make sure that you remove the tab from under the battery. There is a tab placed under the battery on the back of the remote for safety purposes in transit, so you'll just need to make sure that you fully remove that tab. Sometimes that tab breaks off, and so you would have to actually remove the battery to get the rest of it out, but you would know that by looking at the LED display on your remote as to whether or not there's any numbers or lights or characters on that screen. Once you've removed that tab, you should find that your shade will operate completely fine with the pre-programmed limits as it came from the factory. The second thing would be that the shades are not fully charged prior to shipping. That's for safety reasons in transit, so the rechargeable lithium battery is not 100% full before you go to install. Completely up to you if you'd like to charge the shade before you install it, or if you would like to just let your customer know they may not get the full 300 up-down cycles per charge as you would expect normally. The first time may be actually less. The final thing that I'd like to go over is something that may turn up later, maybe the first time the customer goes to recharge the battery. As I mentioned, the shade gets 300 up-down cycles or so per charge. Will beep when it's time to charge. They'll plug the charger in. And if they should find that the shade only operates when the charger is plugged in, that may indicate a disruption between the battery and the motor that is sealed inside the tube. If that's the case and your customer lets you know that they can only operate their shade when it's plugged in, the only real remedy for that is a new motor. And so please contact us at that time, let us know, and we'd be happy to send you a new motor along with instructions on how to quickly and easily change the motor out of your shade. So thank you so much for tuning into this. Hope that you found some interesting information, and please let us know if we can help you in any way.